In Chile, police forces repressed demonstrations in commemoration of the victims of the coup d'etat against Salvador Allende in 1973. In Brazil, the Superior Electoral Court ordered Jair Bolsonaro to remove from his campaign propaganda images from the nation's bicentennial celebration. And in India, health authorities registered more than 5,700 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Chile, demonstrations in commemoration of the victims of the 1973 coup d'etat against Salvador Allende faced police repression. Health services confirmed that at least one person was injured as a result of the security forces' repression. The injured was transferred to Salvador Hospital in the metropolitan region. Demonstrators denounced the use of water cannons and tear gas that prevented the development of the event in the capital. The new acts of repression take place in the framework of a day in which students, militants, and citizens in general participate, remembering those who fell during the coup d'etat that cost the lives of President Salvador Allende. These Sunday slogans express the same demands as then.
Hello, I am Victoria Herrera, national spokeswoman for Ucamau. Here we are, the movement of settlers, the guerrillas of Ucamau. Here we are again participating in the pilgrimage, remembering our history, remembering those who died fighting in our country and who raised a struggle of the workers' movement. We continue with a vindicating struggle for us, which is the right to housing and citizenship, remembering that movement that was raised during a historical process for our country. So we will continue marching every year in this pilgrimage, and we will continue to vindicate those rights denied to the workers.
Likewise, the participants emphasized the main purpose of this movement is to remind and show the government that everything that happened will not be forgotten.
My name is Rosa Silva, and once again we are here in a pilgrimage, and I believe that today, more than ever, it is necessary to keep the memory, because to do so is to make history, and those who do not know their history cannot move forward. But we are here also to demonstrate to all these governments that it is not easy to forget everything that has happened. It is not possible institutionally to make a clean sweep. There is a historical debt here, which seems to be fractured, fragmented, and what I like the most about this moment is to see so many young people, because this is a slightly different march to the traditional one that is back there.
Chile commemorates on Sunday the 49th anniversary of dictator Augusto Pinochet Ugarte's coup d'etat, which overthrew then President Salvador Allende. The coup d'etat was led by Pinochet together with Vice Admiral José Toribio Merino and Air Force Commander Gustavo Ley. During the events, there was a bombing of La Moneda Palace, seat of the Chilean government, as well as a takeover over the city streets by the military. After hours of combat, the coup d'etat resulted in the death of then President Salvador Allende and the beginning of Pinochet's subsequent military dictatorship in the country, which left at least 4,175 victims, including detainees, disappeared people, and those who suffered political persecution and torture throughout the national territory. In Chile, people denounced that private mining companies pay lower taxes compared to the state-owned National Copper Corporation of Chile, also known as Codelco. According to the Center for National Studies of Alternative Development, in a year, private mining companies took 71% of the copper extracted in Chile without paying a significant amount, and whose total worth reached more than $38 billion. In this regard, they warned that taxes rendered by private mining companies accounted for 0.5% of fiscal income, while Codelco, which extracts close to 30% of the nation's minerals, contributes with 7.6%, that is nearly $6,000 million. Panama authorities reinforced preventive measures in response to a re-outbreak of malaria crisis in the country. According to a report from the Ministry of Health, over 4,000 positive cases have been registered, most of them in Gunayala region with 1,513 cases, and the provinces of East Panama with 904 and Darien with 824 cases. The institution indicated that prevention and health promotion actions were intensified, as well as a strategy for research, diagnosis, and treatment. Malaria is a disease caused by Plasmodium parasite transmitted by the bite of an infected mosquito, whose ailments are fever, sweating, and that appear between 10 and 15 days after the insect bite. In Peru, health authorities confirmed over 1,000 cases of monkeypox. In its most recent release, Peruvian health authorities reported 52 new cases of monkeypox in the country, bringing to 1,860 total number of infected people in the nation. Likewise, also reported that some 374 patients were discharged from the hospital and indicated that all those positive for the disease are being treated according to medical protocols. The report indicates that the disease has been registered in some 17 regions of the country, and Metropolitan Lima is the one with the highest number with 1,501 cases. Violence continues in Colombia. This Sunday, a new social leader was murdered in the city of Barrancabermeja in Santander Department. According to the Institute for Development and Peace Studies, the victim was identified as Cibares Lamprea Vargas, 42 years old. Cibares was leaving his father's funeral at about 8:30 p.m. local time when a group of assassins shot him multiple times at Camilo Torres Park. The social leader Cibares Lampresa Vargas stood out as Secretary of Administrative Affairs at Barrancabermeja Subdirectorate of Oil Workers Union in the oil industry. According to INDEPAS, 126 social leaders have been assassinated so far this year throughout the country, and 2 in the Colombian capital. Of Venezuela reported a new attack on its electricity system in the state of Falcón, west of the country, and informed that after a brief interruption, the service has been re-established. The Minister of Electric Energy, Nestor Reverol, declared that it was a sabotage to the Josefa Camejo thermoelectric power plant in the city of Punto Fijo. 2 persons suspected of having perpetrated the attack were detained and remain under medical attention. Additionally, it was learned that it caused damage to 3 turbines of the plant, which caused a temporary interruption of the service in the region. Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back from the South. In Brazil, the Superior Electoral Court ordered presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro to remove from his campaign propaganda images of the official events for the nation's bicentennial. In response to the request of the coalition of parties and movements supporting candidate Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, Superior Electoral Court Minister Benedito Gonçalves ordered the exclusion of the images taken during the official events of September 7th for the country's bicentenary from all materials of the candidate election. The instruction to TV Brazil to remove from its broadcast the footage of the coverage of this commemoration that promotes Bolsonaro's candidacy. The deadline for the implementation of the ruling is 24 hours, and its non-compliance carries a fine equivalent to $10,000. Supporters of Argentinian Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner rallied after the politician survived an assassination attempt. Tens of thousands of Argentinians took to the streets after the shooting attempt. The former president was mingling with supporters outside her home last Thursday night when a gun brandished by alleged shooter Fernando Sabac Montiel failed to fire. The man accused of trying to shoot Argentinian Vice President Cristina Fernández last week planned the attack with his girlfriend, according to preliminary charges filed by a judge, local media reported on Wednesday. The charges seen by media Wednesday are preliminary and can still be modified, but they mark the first official charge that the attack on the vice president was premeditated. In the United States, a study on criminal violence revealed that homicides increased by 50% during the first half of this year. According to a survey released by Axios on Saturday, violent crime rose 4.2% during the period from January 1st to June 30th compared to the same period last year, although the figures show homicides decreased by 2.4% and rapes fell by 5% in major cities compared to 2019 mid-year figures. There was a 50% increase in homicides and a roughly 36% increase in aggravated assaults. Gun violence has been the driving force behind the rise in homicides. Most experts agree that it will take a combination of action from law enforcement, policymakers, and community-based organizations for these numbers to return to pre-pandemic levels. The September 11th anniversary commemoration at Ground Zero began on Sunday with a tolling bell and a moment of silence 21 years later after the start of the deadliest attack on United States soil. Victims, relatives, and dignitaries gathered at all three places where hijacked plane crashed on September 11, 2001, the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon, and a Pennsylvania field. Vice President Kamala Harris, while President Biden was at the Pentagon, while First Lady Jill Biden at the Flight 93 National Memorial in Shanksville. The attacks killed nearly 3,000 people, led to a war on terror, and affected U.S. politics and public life to this day. In Europe, authorities forecast that available gas reserves would be insufficient to cope with the coming winter. The head of the Turkish company Gazday Energy Consulting, Mehmet Dogan, stated that despite the fact that gas deposits in Europe are close to 80% of their capacity, this figure will not be enough in case of an extremely cold winter. The leader of the firm added that despite the energy-saving measures announced by the European Union, the gas in storage will run out by the end of January. He also added that prices in the region have gotten out of control due to the bloc's irresponsible policies, especially the suspension of the entry into operation of the new Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The cortege carrying the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II arrived at Holyrood House, Edinburgh, following a 290-kilometer journey from Balmoral Castle. The coffin will remain in Edinburgh until Tuesday, when it will be flown to London in preparation for the late Queen's funeral. Thousands of silent mourners line the streets to pay their respects to the late sovereign, with some throwing flowers as the cortege wound its way through the countryside. Farmers on the route positioned their tractors to form a guard of honor as the cortege drove by, while riders on horseback lined up in Pertecoulter, a suburb of Aberdeen, to pay respect. The Queen's state funeral took place at Westminster Abbey Sunday, September 19th. The date has been declared a bank holiday across the UK. Prime Minister Gaston Brown announced plans to hold a referendum in Antigua and Barbuda to allow the people to decide whether they want to secede from the British monarchy. The Prime Minister said it is a decision to be made by means of a referendum and estimates that it could be held within the next 3 years. At present, Antigua and Barbuda is part of the Commonwealth, a voluntary association that, in addition to the United Kingdom, includes almost all of its former colonies. The head of state said the move to a republic is not a sign of hostility towards the monarchy, but a last step to complete the circle of independence.
It's not an act of hostility or any difference between Antigua and Barbuda and the monarchy, but it is the final step, as I said before, to complete that circle of independence, to ensure that we are truly.
In Israel, experts warn about consequences of its tremendous population density. According to Manuel Trachtenberg, head of the Institute for National Security Studies, the Middle Eastern nation is the third more densely populated country among the members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, after the Netherlands and South Korea. Trachtenberg also stated the Israeli system of government allowances aimed at aiding families blessed with many children must be changed. The head of the Institute for National Security Studies emphasized the most patriotic thing to do is to have no more than 2 children. The Israeli regime constantly seizes Palestinian territory to create new settlements as an expansionist policy of the government. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In India, more than 5,700 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in the last 24 hours. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare reported the number of carriers of the virus exceeds 47,000 people, while the accumulated number since the beginning of the pandemic reached 44 million. The balance of the last day of the pandemic is 11 patients dead, although the proportion of recovered patients is 98.71%. The Asian nation has applied more than 2.1 billion vaccines and recommends maintaining preventive measures despite the general feeling that the worst part of the crisis is over. Businesses in southwest China's Tibet Autonomous Region started to reopen as the latest COVID-19 outbreak subsides. Supermarkets, pharmacies, and restaurants have been given the go-ahead to reopen. A month ago, many areas of Tibet were put under statute due to a fresh COVID-19 outbreak. Health authorities report daily infections and have imposed strict rules that businesses must follow. In some places, only one member of each family is allowed to shop outside within a set time period, and they must maintain social distancing. In addition, construction of many suspended projects has resumed as well. Local authorities said their efforts over the past month in Tibet have been effective, and community transmission has been halted in many areas.
Pandemic control has been effective. As one of the business owners here, I'm happy to see this.
We require business owners to take 2 PCR tests every 3 days. They must disinfect their venues and goods carefully every day. Also, we ask them to prepare enough pandemic control supplies for at least 7 days.
The 19th China-Asian Expo and Business Investment Summit, to be held in China's Guangxi-Sichuan Autonomous Region from September 16 to the 19th, will greatly promote economic and trade cooperation between China and the 10 Asian countries. Themed around sharing new opportunities of the regional comprehensive economic partnership, the events will showcase the new achievements in trade cooperation between the sides. This year's expo for the first time will feature several sections on top-notch products from Asian and RCEP member states, as well as China's central government-owned enterprises. Other areas will be new energy vehicles, culture and tourism, healthcare, cross-border e-commerce, and new retail. China has remained Asia's largest trading partner for 13 consecutive years. During the first 7 months of this year, their trade with each other surged 13.1% year-on-year to $544.9 billion, accounting for 15% of China's total foreign trade during that time.
We will hold multiple trade and investment promotion activities, such as introduction and marketing events for Asian member states, investment fairs for cooperative industrial park, business matchmaking meetings, so as to promote the integrative development of the China-Asian industrial chain and supply chain. We will also host online consultation between suppliers from the Asian countries and China's professional purchasers for trade matchmaking.
The 22nd China medical team in Rwanda gave a 3-day free consultation and treatment service at the Gahanga Health Center in Kigali, which was welcomed and praised by local patients. The team provided health consultation, ultrasound, dental, and electrocardiogram examinations, as well as acupuncture and massage services for the local people. 12 medical workers of the team specialize in internal medicine, such as surgery, orthopedics, obstetrics and gynecology, stomatology, traditional Chinese medicine, and other disciplines, diagnosed and treated more than 300 patients. The Chinese medical team also distributed medicines to patients free of charge and donated medicines, medical supplies, and anti-epidemic goods to the Gahanga Health Center.
I am so grateful for the free clinic activities at Gahanga Center. The Chinese medical team has helped the community treat a large number of local patients. These diseases cannot be treated in the local area. I would recommend others to come to the Chinese medical team for treatment.
The free medical service this time is mainly to provide convenience for local people, relieve their pains, improve their medical and health conditions, and help improve the local health standards.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st. and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us, and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and of faithfulness to our audience. We have come to the end of this news brief, from you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok at the account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.